Hello, everyone. It is Thursday. Happy weekend eve. And we got a good fight on Saturday, an intriguing fight that we'll talk about. Not a great card, but an intriguing main event. I stand by what I've been saying for a while that this isn't pay per view worthy card, but we have what we have, right? So let's talk about what we have. We're going to talk about betting odds. We're going to talk about fading. We're going to talk about value. Um, and just the intrigue of this matchup because I feel like it's a good matchup and it's kind of hard to grasp because it could go one of either extremes. This could end up being an exciting fight that we didn't expect, more exciting than we expected, or it can end up being a complete dud, a complete stylistic mess. So there's a possibility of that as well. So that adds intrigue to it as well. Y'all make sure to hit that like button as y'all come in. Let me shout out some people. Carlos G. Alvarado. What up, y'all? Shout out to you. Wheelchair Man John. What's up with you? Appreciate you. Anthony Sanchez. Appreciate you. Salute you. Martin Harnett. I'm also looking forward to this fight. Appreciate you rolling through. Team Batman Boxing. Appreciate you rolling through. I want people getting engaged in the chat today because this is one of those days where I will be getting to the chat quite a bit. Shout out to Surge. Appreciate you because I want to know what people's thoughts are on this fight. Do y'all agree with me that Regis Prograis is undervalued in this fight? Are we reading too much into the Zorilla loss? Was that a one-off? Was that more of the trend that Regis Prograis does not fight well in New Orleans? Was it less of he's older, 35 years old, and more of just he had an off night? Was it less of he's weight drained and no, he just had an off night. It just happens. Or are those things true? Is he showing his age? Is he weight drained at 140? Is Devin Haney continuing this trend of being opportunistic and trying to pluck off a belt of a vulnerable champion? Is it that? Or is this a real challenge? Is this a miscalculation on his part? We know his team is opportunistic. We've talked about it takes nuance to really break down Devin Haney's career, and unfortunately, you don't have that, particularly in the YTBC, that nuance. And I've explained why that is, right? You have to be either pro fighter A or anti-fighter A. You can't be in the middle anymore. You can't be in the middle if you want to put up numbers anymore. If you come out with a pro Haney opinion on anything, you have to be pro Haney going forward all the time in order to keep those numbers coming in. Or if you're anti-Haney, you have to be anti-Haney all the time to keep those people coming back. And I think that's why you get a lot of the extreme positions that you have out there. But what I'm intrigued by in this fight is it could go many different directions, and I want to hear from the chat. Who do y'all have in this fight? Just to get a gauge of where we're at. Prograis decision, Prograis knockout. Is it Haney decision? Is it Haney knockout? So y'all start hitting me up in the chat. What do y'all think the result of this fight will be? And then we'll go off of that. First of all, let me comment on some breaking news that's a lot less interesting to me. Just business stuff. And I think it's going to be, like I said, more of the same. This deal that we've known has been coming for a while now, has been announced. PBC to Amazon Prime. And it's going to be 12 to 14 cards per year. So roughly a card per month. So it just seems like more of the same to me. Some will be pay-per-views. I think we'll continue to get a good bit of pay-per-views going forward. And I've tried to break this pessimistic news to people in the past because people think they're going to get some sort of huge reset. And I said, unless you get something like PBC going to the zone, you're not going to get that because getting rid of network exclusivity could start to get us in that positive direction of a reset. That's something that's actually doable that we can do in order to get into a positive direction. But it's just this news solidifies that that's not going to happen. You're going to continue to have promoters advisors, align with certain networks, and then they're going to keep those networks and platforms. It's going to be like Bloods and Crips, right? And you're going to continue to get this model from the PBC. I do believe that it's going to be a high level, a high percentage of pay-per-views, higher than it should be. At the top level, it's going to maintain the same as it's been. It's going to be not much activity from the top. Fighters fighting roughly 1.2, 1.3 times per year at the top. And those are the fighters that are going to do well with this new deal because their payers are going to be affected. Now, you're going to have other fighters, their pay may be affected, but I will warn you on this as well. There's going to be another network announced pretty soon. I'm just throwing that out there. There's going to be another network, and you don't have to be a genius to see that. Stevie Wonder could see it. You don't need any insider information to see this. There's going to be another network from the PBC announced soon. It's not just going to be Amazon. They can't do what they need to do with a huge roster of 150 fighters, whatever it is, with one network deal with a smaller budget, 12 to 14 dates per year. They can't do it. They can't do it. So there's going to be another network announced pretty soon. And I don't know the details of this. The devil will be in the details. In the meantime, I'll warn you what you're going to have. You're going to have the PBC crowd act like this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. What a deal. Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is the greatest thing ever, right? Look at all the millions and millions and millions of people who have Amazon Prime, and they're going to try to compute that to where all of those people are going to watch boxing, right? The devil is in the details. We don't know what the budget is. We know the amount of dates. We don't know how many of those are going to be pay-per-view. So we'll just have to watch. But I'm a big track record guy. I'm a big guy on actions. So when this is announced, I'm like, all right, so what? What's the details? But I already know from the track record, Showtime, HBO, Bounce TV, Fox, NBC. I already know from all the networks they've run through that this is going to be more of the same. And people aren't going to want to hear that. The pro BBC crowd is going to, they want to hear that this is great. This is great for boxing. This is great for the PBC. It's going to position them in a new manner, and it's none of that. And the anti-PBC crowd wants to hear that the PBC is going away and that Al Heyman will go away. And it's not that either. People don't want to hear this, that it's going to be more of the same. You got to get used to Al Heyman. He's going to be around. You got to get used to the PBC. They're going to be around. And I would not shock you. I would not be shocked since it's been announced that PBC is going to handle their own production in this deal, that a lot of the same characters you had from Showtime are going over to Amazon Prime. What we wanted to hear from a new network is we're going to get more value out of production. Dana White, once again, boxing fans don't want to hear this because of the messenger. Since it's coming from a messenger they do not like, they don't want to hear the message, but Dana White is right when he says this. Showtime's production value sucked. It was awful. It was atrocious. It takes forever to get replays. The talking heads, too much talking heads. Get to a damn fight. For the love of God, get to the fight. Can we just watch dudes fight? Why do we have to watch these talking heads just talk? Can we get a damn replay before there's 5 seconds left until we go to the next round? For the love of God, I would not be shocked if you get that production value, come over to Amazon Prime, and you get a lot of the talking heads that were over at Showtime come over to Amazon Prime, and we just get more of the same, fellas. People do not want to hear that. Both sides, they don't want to hear it. The PBC crowd, oh my God, our false God, Al Heyman, has done it. Although last year, earlier in the year, wasn't even last year, a couple months ago, they were saying apps. Pfft, your favorite fighter's fighting on an app? And now they're on an app. But since it's Al's app, It's the right app now, right? Now apps are great. Now apps are phenomenal. We love apps now. Look at all the tens of millions and billions of people on this app, right? That have access to this app. Now apps are good. So the PBC crowd does not want to hear that. They want to hear that this is a groundbreaking deal. They don't even know the details. And the devil's going to be in the details. They don't know what the budget is. They don't know how many of these are going to be pay-per-views out of the 12 to 14. One card per month. And they don't even know how many of those are going to be pay-per-views. But they want to hear you say that this is the greatest deal in the history of deals. And if you don't say it, guess what? You're going to be called David Duke or whatever, right? And then once again, the anti-PBC crowd is going to want to hear that this is awful and Al Haymon is likely mostly going to go away. He's going to lose most of his roster. And I got news for you, man. I think there are more deals to come, at least one more deal to come. And Al's going to be around, and the PBC is going to be going around, and we're going to see more of what we've been seeing. I just think that's the case. That's the reality of what we have. And these people have been waiting for this great reset. I got news for you. At the top level, it's not going to come. You see Saudi? You see the money Saudi's tossing around? And through pay-per-views, they're still going to be able to pay the fighters, whether it be Top Rank, PBC, Matchroom. They're still going to pay their top fighters what they've been paying them. So this great reset, at least at the top, it's not going to happen, fellas. And I've been warning you about this. It's not going to happen. I don't know where y'all are getting y'all's information from. Where are y'all consuming this content to where they're telling you there's going to be a great reset? It's not going to happen. You'll always have players in the game willing to overpay fighters. And this isn't just fighters, this is athletes in general. They're overpaying athletes in every league, every sport now at the top. And it's going to continue in boxing. It's going to continue. And you're going to continue to see fighters sit it out until they get their big paydays. And that's why you're going to continue to get more of the same in fighter inactivity in particular. You're going to continue to see inflated purses at the top. And you're going to continue to see it, especially at the top. And maybe there'll be a change below that, right? At that second level, maybe there's a change. Maybe those fighters are going to be forced to work their way up to the top. And then they'll be able to get inactive and get inflated purses, right? But at the top, those fighters are just going to simply do what Deontay Wilder has done. He's going to sit out 14, 15 months until a Saudi prince pays them whatever they're paying them to sit there and fight on Anthony Joshua's undercard. And then maybe in this Riyadh season, he gets an Anthony Joshua fight. All right. But you'll get one or two fights real quick, and then you'll get another long period of inactivity. That's what's going to happen. I hate to break it to y'all. I don't know what this Amazon budget is. If there is a budget, whatever this deal is, but you're going to see a lot of pay-per-views in that deal. I wouldn't be surprised if half of those fights in that deal are pay-per-views. And those fighters at the top are going to make Al Haymon money as well as themselves. And then the other fights are largely going to be subsidized fights. That's where we're at. Good afternoon, Andre. And I fully expect that people wanted a different reaction. Either doom and gloom or, oh my God, this is great. This is great for boxing, but it's just not there. Fellas, it's going to be more of the same. How much are they charging for the December 23rd card in Saudi? I think they said, but I forgot. It's not 80, 85 in the normal price, but I forgot what it is. It's like getting excited about your friend's ninth wedding after 8 divorce. Thank you. James, that is a perfect way to put this. Perfect way to put this. They've been through bounce. Look at all the grooms they've run through. Look at all the brides they've run through. Bounce, NBC, Fox, Showtime. HBO. God only knows who else. I forgot. And now it's going to be different with Amazon Prime, right? It's like, no, man. She's had 5 weddings. She's had 6 weddings. 5 ex-husbands. At some point, we have to get it through our head that it's going to keep happening. Track record. Track record. This deal is going to be whatever it is for as long as it's going to be, and then it's going to be non-existent. And then he's going to find another network, another platform. It is what it is. Why in the world would we expect anything different at this point? Why would we expect this to be the greatest deal of all time and great for boxing based off of what we've seen? And then on the other hand, why would we expect Al Heyman to just go away? These dudes that have been nailing that coffin, think they're nailing a coffin. That last nail in PBC's coffin, dude, you're not. I don't know what you think you were hitting, but that's not the last nail in the coffin of PBC. I can guarantee you that. They're going to be around. And you're going to get more of the same. It is what it is. So you'll get other reactions from other channels. And like I said, I broke those down at the top of the show. You're going to have the pro BBC crowd that's got to be pro BBC all the time. You're going to have the anti PBC crowd that's got to be anti PBC all the time. And they're both wrong here. They're both wrong. They're both going to be wrong. You're getting false information. There's going to be another deal. PBC is going to be around, but they're going to be around in the same form. And that's what the pro BBC crowd is missing. But the pro BBC crowd, this is the thing, is they either love what the PBC has been doing or they're pretending to. Either way, they want to see more of the same. So I guess this is good news for them. More in-house fights and wrong side of the street BS. And you're right, is, fellas, an easy... The easiest problem, I wouldn't say it's easy, but the easiest problem that we could attack if we wanted to change things is network exclusivity. And that's why I was hoping that we'd have some sort of PBC DAZN deal, but it just wasn't realistic. And that would have been good for boxing. But this isn't. This is just more of the same. This is more of your side of the street, my side of the street, his side of the street. And we all just stay on our side of the street until it's favorable for me to do that fight or it's favorable for me to cash out this fighter. And that's what we got. They're celebrating like they won the jackpot. Let me see what I got here. Shout out Nando. Appreciate the super chat and always appreciate you rolling through, Nando. And I think, Nando, you're going to the fight, aren't you? Aren't you going to the fight? And that's why I got this Bay Area hat on. Let me get to the question that I asked earlier. Who's going to win this fight? Result. I feel like Prograis will win. Need to win 9 rounds to get a decision, and the bookies know it too. Possibly. Likely, actually. I got Haney by UD. That seems to be where people are going. Haney by BS decision. You got a lot of people doing that too. It's either going to be a great fight or a boring one. I agree. Haney UD. Haney knockout. That's an interesting one. Because I feel like people have been trying to will this Haney knockout thing into existence. And maybe I'll start there. More on that in a minute. Hard to call. Odds value is Prograis by KO. Yeah, I think that's sitting at plus 700 or plus 630, actually. So, yeah, there could be value in that. So let's start at the top with the gentleman just said about Haney by knockout. I feel like people are trying to will that into existence because I feel like that became a popular thing. Each of his last fights on Fight Week is Haney by stoppage against Lomachenko, and I didn't really understand it. Haney by stoppage against Kambosos didn't happen. Haney by stoppage against Jojo Diaz. Haney by stoppage against Linares. And at some point, you have to say this guy just isn't a stoppage fighter. He's not a knockout fighter. And one of the theories out there, I saw it, I think, I don't remember where this was, CompuBox, ProBox TV. I don't remember what guys were saying this, but no, I know what it was. That guy, Showbiz Pizza or Showbiz TV or whatever his name is. Somebody put that on my timeline that he's saying that Haney is going to become, as he moves up, a stoppage fighter, a knockout fighter. A guy who grows into the weight, has grown man power as he grows up in weight, no longer draining himself. And then he'll have more power behind his shots, and he'll then become a guy with a lot of pop on his shots and then become a stoppage type fighter. And that's why he's predicting that Haney, or insinuating that Haney will stop Prograis in this fight. And I couldn't disagree more. Haney just doesn't have power. Power is a thing you have or you don't, and then you can bring out the power of a fighter through technique. The thing is, though, Haney has had technique for a long time. He's a technical fighter. He knows how to set up punches. So it's wishful thinking, and I think that's what it is, wishful thinking, to say that this guy all of a sudden will develop grown man power and start sitting on his punches more when he's facing fighters with more power. And when you're facing fighters with more power, you'll be less reluctant to sit on your punches. I think we're going to have a more skittish, more cagey type of fighter in Devin Haney as he moves up in weight, which is why I say I don't think, I've said it for a while now, I don't think he's going to translate to 140, 147 in the future the way he translated to 135. I don't think so. Not saying he can't be a good fighter there and can't win titles. I think that'll be there for him, certainly. But this pound for pound great generational fighter that people are expecting to show up from Devin Haney as time goes on, maybe it'll be there. I don't know. But I think that's going to be harder. It's going to be more difficult to bring it out of that guy at 140 and 147. He didn't have power at 135. I don't think that was a weight drain thing. I think he just doesn't have power. I think he's just pillow fisted. It's ironic that Paulie Malignaggi has been very critical of Devin Haney and that they hate each other because they're so much alike. They're a lot alike. And I give Devin Haney more credit as far as power. He's a more powerful fighter than Paulie Malignaggi. They were both tough. They were both skilled, great jab. But one thing Devin Haney does not have is power. He doesn't. He may have enough to keep you honest, but he's not a stoppage power guy. He's not a one-punch knockout guy, and he's not a stoppage power guy. He's not a guy who's going to beat it out of you. He's a guy who's going to have to win decision after decision after decision in top fights. That's what he's going to have to do. And that could be tough. They could be tough, right? Because you're always taking one result off the board. You're always taking Haney by stoppage off the board. And I think you got to do this in this fight. Haney by stoppage to me is pretty much off the board. I can't see him stopping Regis Prograis. Maybe he does it, and if he does, we eat crow. That's what it is. But based off of what? Since he stepped up at the top level, why would anybody think that this guy's going to get a stoppage against the Regis Prograis? I don't see it. I don't see it. Haney, the king of Louisiana. He might be Saturday night. But it takes nuance if you're going to break down Devin Haney's career correctly. And people aren't willing to do that because they want to either be pro Haney or anti Haney because it's easier to get those clicks, right? It's just an easier thing to do. And they do this with everybody now. It's like that with everybody. But Haney is a good example of this because it does involve nuance. This guy gives us the fights that we want that align with what we say we want as boxing fans, right? We want fighters fighting for titles. We want fighters fighting in meaningful matchups, right? So what has Devin Haney done? He's fought for undisputed. The guy who he beat for undisputed, he went back to that guy's neck of the woods and defended. And then he defended against the number 2 guy in the division in Vasily Lomachenko. So you say, oh, that's good. And then he moves up a weight class and he's fighting a guy who has been known as one of the top 2 guys in this division for half a decade. This is all good stuff. It's all good stuff. So this is where I see the pro Haney crowd come in. I see it in the back office, but I say these guys aren't going to stay because look at what I'm going to say next. And what I'm going to say next is, although in a lot of ways what he's done and what he values aligns with what we value as boxing fans, there's still the opportunistic part of Devin Haney. And how do I know that? I saw how they reacted when Kambosos beat Teofimo. They reacted how anybody would, right? Oh, this is an easier way to win these titles when undisputed. We'll give this guy whatever he wants. We'll do it again, and we'll get those titles. They saw Vasily Lomachenko, and they tried to brainwash people into thinking that, and it's absurd because it's an easy timeline to follow, that Lomachenko was ducking them since 2019. Just as absurd stuff, right? But it was the right time to fight Lomachenko. Coming off a poor performance and against Jermaine Ortiz, and Lomachenko was a little higher in age. This is what they felt, right? And that almost backfired on them. And I give them credit for the victory. I don't want to hear Lomachenko is old and all this stuff. Look, Lomachenko should have won the fight. Didn't get the result. It is what it is. We got to deal with that. We're all grown men here. But you can't tell me that there wasn't an opportunistic angle there. And it's further proof in that, look, man, I don't care what people say about Haney was saying whatever about Regis Prograis before the Zorilla fight and Bill Haney was down there. Look, when they performed the way they did against Zorilla, they made that fight. It's an opportunistic angle in that this guy's older, he's weight drained, let's do that fight. Let's go get that belt. It aligns with our values. He's moving up. He's fighting a guy who's been top 2 in the division. He's fighting for a real belt. All this stuff is good. But at the same time, there's still that opportunistic angle. And you can't tell me there's not. Because I see what they're already telegraphing as far as the next move. Instead of staying in the division and defending this belt and trying to unify, they're going to move up to 147 possibly and fight Matteo Barrios. And you say, why Matteo Barrios? It's because he's the easiest title holder at 147. And that's actually an easier fight, fighting a guy who is a true 140-pounder at 147 for a belt instead of staying in the division and doing real 140-pound stuff. It's the new age thing, right? It's don't stay and campaign in a single weight class for a long time. It's just bounce around. Just bounce around and pick off some belts. So these are the wild cards in this fight. This is Devin Haney's first fight at 140, and he's fighting a true 140-pounder who has been in the division top 2 guy for 5-6 years. And that's a wild card because we have no data on Devin Haney at 140. You'll have a Showbiz Pizza out there saying that this guy's going to carry his grown man weight up there and then start knocking people out. Then you have somebody like me who says, I don't think he's going to translate that well to 140. At least it's not as well as 135. So which one is it? We'll have to find out. We have no data on Devin Haney at 140. We have a guy who didn't have power at 135, but was still winning big fights at 135, moving into 140. We don't know. We simply don't know what's going to happen at 140. The weight. The weight is a big factor. It's a wild card. How does Devin Haney look that he doesn't have to lose that extra 5 pounds? Is he more reinvigorated? Does the power bother him at 140? These are question marks. And then the other question mark is Regis Prograis going down to the 140? Well, too long. We've seen guys do it. We saw Errol Spence do it at 147. There just comes a point where they can't do it anymore, and they're not the same fighter. So that's what we have to ask of Regis Prograis is, have you been at that weight too long? And did the Haney team properly gauge that? because that's the opportunistic side that we talked about. Is they see that. They saw it. They saw a guy who was not able to cut off the ring with a guy who's circling towards his power hand the whole fight. He's circling the same way the whole fight. And Regis Prograis couldn't cut off the ring. So they're looking at this and they're saying, 35 years old, weight drained. It's time. It's time. Are they miscalculating? The weight's a big factor. Another big factor is jab versus the southpaw. Fellas, Devin Haney is abysmal at landing the jab against southpaws. And it's another reason this dude, it just involves nuance following this dude and breaking it down, is because people break him down as one of the greatest jabbers in the world. A guy who is slick, which I don't think he is. I don't think he's slick. I think he's technical fighter. When he gets the jab going, it looks great. He gets cagey in there, right? He's opportunistic, not only outside the ring, inside the ring. But I think what people misread about Devin Haney inside the ring is he's not slick. His jab may be actually overrated. But what could be underrated about him is he does have a dog in him, because you don't gut out a Lomachenko victory without that. Lomachenko completely takes his jab away, completely neutralizes it, right? And brings a type of pressure that Devin Haney had not seen before, a nuanced type of pressure coming from a southpaw. And then Devin Haney does enough to figure it out to stay in that fight and get a decision. He does it through body punching. So there's a nuance to his game that people don't give him credit for. And another thing people don't give him credit for is he's actually in exciting fights when he's sped up, and he's sped up more times than not against top fighters. And that's why I think we could see a good fight here, is because the Linares fight was a better fight than people expected. So was the Jojo Diaz fight. So was the Lomachenko fight. If you allow Devin Haney to only use his left hand and clinch, jab and clinch the whole fight, he's going to do it. And that's why I say, and people misunderstand what I say when I'm saying this, is he'll be as boring as you allow him to. Devin Haney, if he could, he'll stink it out and just get the decision victory. He did it against Kambosos twice. He barely threw the right hand against Kambosos because he didn't have to. And if he doesn't have to, he's not going to do it. Which is why he's not going to carry power up with him. He's not going to throw more power shots and sit on shots as he goes up in weight. It's a crazy thing to think. If anything, he's going to become more left-hand dominant and more of a mover as he moves up. But he's actually a little more exciting than people give him credit for, or not as boring as people say he is. And he's a little more versatile than people give him credit for, because he has to be in order to win a fight against Lomachenko. He has to be. Because what happened in the Lomachenko fight? I want y'all to listen to these stats. Against Jojo Diaz, a southpaw, he landed 10 jabs the whole fight. 10, less than one per round. He landed 4.7% of his jabs against Jojo Diaz. He landed 20 jabs the whole fight against Lomachenko. 20. 20 out of 188, 10.6%. He landed 32 jabs against Kambosos. So you see, as he fights conventional fighters, he'll land more jabs. Right? But he has more of a hesitancy to throw those jabs and sit on those jabs and land those jabs against the southpaws. They get neutralized. And I would say you're not a great jabber if that's happening to you. And who's he fighting in this fight? He's fighting Regis Prograis, who is who? He's a southpaw. He's a southpaw. They see a guy who can't cut off the ring, but at the same time, they're going in there with a guy who they're going to struggle to land the jab against. That's what the track record tells us. The track record tells us he landed a combined 30 jabs in 24 rounds against the last two southpaws he's faced. Mm. 30 jabs in 24 rounds against the last two southpaws he's faced. So when you see people say stuff like, I think this is going to be a more exciting fight than people are saying, it's because of that. It's because southpaws have been able to neutralize that jab and speed Devin Haney up and take him into a little more of an uncomfortable zone that I think Prograis will be able to get him to. My fear is that he starts to feel Prograis' power a good bit early in the fight, that he didn't feel with Lomachenko, that he didn't feel with Jojo Diaz because they're lighter punchers. They were not lightweight punchers. They're just not. Lomachenko's got a low KO percentage at lightweight. That's his flaw there. That's his major flaw. Lomachenko, if he has a flaw at lightweight, that's it. He's not a power puncher. He's not a finisher at lightweight. And Jojo Diaz has never been a natural lightweight with lightweight power. This is his first time facing a southpaw with power. So it's a question mark. You've had this sentiment that D-style boxing has broken down. They just feel like Devin Haney is on borrowed time, at least as far as keeping that O. And that eventually that's going to catch up to him. Eventually they're going to miscalculate and go in there with the wrong guy, being that they're opportunistic, and the time's going to run out. Could this be the fight? Could Prograis be that type of guy? For me, I don't need to see fighters keep their O. I know D-Style's the same way. So if he loses, he loses as long as they continue to give us fights, right? I'm fine with that. But these people, the Devin Haney fans that want him to keep his O, and I think Haney's team wants him to keep that O. I don't know. We'll see. But here's another angle to look at as far as this fight. There's a thing called fading when it comes to betting sports. We do it in college football all the time, in particular because you're dealing with athletes 18 to 22 years old, highly emotional, right? So fading is a big thing. So you'll see a team win a big game last Saturday, and then this Saturday they play in a game, and you fade that team because it's more than likely they're going to come down to earth. It's more than likely big victory. They're going to come out flat the next week. Or you'll have big game, small game, big game. That second game there, it's called the trap game. You bet against that team in the trap game. Right? So with Devin Haney, he's coming off a big win against Lomachenko, in which many of us feel he didn't win, including the guys who handicapped him as a 3.5 to 1 favorite against Lomachenko. People forget this because people still tell me Lomachenko was upset by Haney. He was not upset by Haney. Haney was the 3.5 to 1 favorite. But the guys who handicapped that fight also handicapped Lomachenko as a clear favorite going into the 12th round. They're saying to the public, we got this wrong going into the 12th round. But Haney wins the fight. It's a big fight to win. Will he come out flat in this fight? And on the inverse, Regis Prograis, anytime you see a team, same thing, come out with a flat performance, and if they're good, chances are they're going to come out hot in the next game. And you bet for that team. It's the opposite of fading. Devin Haney coming off a career best victory. Can he keep that going? Is he special enough to beat? And make no mistake about it, he's in the top 2-3 fighters for Fighter of the Year if he beats Regis Prograis on top of beating Lomachenko. The people who aren't picking him to win Fighter of the Year, if that happens, like myself, just didn't feel like he won the Lomachenko fight. But it's still, in the record books, 2 big victories in the same year for a young fighter. So make no mistake about it, great year if he's able to pull that off, but is he special enough to pull that off? That's another question. And another question is, will Regis Prograis have 2 flat performances in a row? If Regis Prograis Comes out flat against Zorilla. More than likely, he's going to come out hot in his next fight. That's what betting trends tell us if you look at his whole career. So if he comes out hot, what are the chances of him losing against Devin Haney? Also, what is the crowd's effect in this? How does that play out? Devin Haney is used to fighting in a crowd full of people who either don't have a dog in the fight or are cheering for the other fighter. Right? He went on the Mexico circuit. He fought Camboso's territory twice when he fought against Lomachenko in Vegas. That was a pro-Lomachenko crowd, pro-Linares crowd, pro-Jojo Diaz crowd. How is he going to fight in front of 15 and 19,000 people who are there to see him win? And I don't buy this notion that Regis Prograis is out there pushing. I believe it was on Fight Hub. Or maybe he was talking about with Ariel Helwani, saying that he's running in San Francisco training for the fight, and everybody in San Francisco is stopping him and yelling out of car windows, "We're all cheering for you. We want you to beat Devin Haney's ass." Maybe those people are out there, but I don't buy that 15,000 people like that are going to show up on Saturday night. I think it's going to be a very much pro Devin Haney crowd. So does Devin Haney feed off of that energy? And if he does, that could be a negative thing. Does Devin Haney fight outside of himself? Try to be more exciting? Is he able to channel the type of performance that Andre Ward did against Mikkel Kessler, in that he shows off for the hometown crowd, opening up the Super Six as the underdog while still staying inside of his fighting style? Can Devin Haney balance those things? Can he be a young fighter who wants to show off for the crowd and entertain, but at the same time fight within himself, within his style? It's another question mark. Because Regis Prograis, I could tell you this about him, and the track record shows it. And in talking to people, fight dudes in New Orleans, they'll tell you he does not fight well at home because he's got a lot of distractions. That's what people say about Regis Prograis down here. He fights in New Orleans, just forget about it. He's not going to be on his game. But the opposite in this case, he doesn't have the pressure of hometown crowd. You could say he's got the pressure of being in the belly of the beast, fair enough, but I think he's going to show out in that type of atmosphere. So we shall see. What if Haney has a chip on his shoulder from people saying he lost the Loma, used that as motive? It could be. It could be. And once again, you could be right. Another wild card. I hope they put on a good fight. Could create a nice market for boxing. That's true. And I hope boxing learns from this, although they won't. But I'll just try to be optimistic and say, I hope they learn from putting the fights where they belong. 15 to 19,000. Whew. Despite what the pay-per-view numbers are going to do, we don't expect them to do well. 15 to 19,000 people showing up. Scaling an arena for 19,000 for Devin Haney. That's success. I know the anti-Haney crowd does not want to hear that. I know you had people invested in just hating on him no matter what he does, but that's strong. You can sell out an arena anywhere. That's strong. And this is what I'm saying is boxing needs to learn from this. Shakur Stevenson shouldn't have been fighting in Vegas. He should have just kept going back to Newark. 11,000, 11,000. I know why they do it. Site fee, live gate. The live gate's going to be higher in Las Vegas. I understand this stuff, but if you build fighters correctly, you build them regional out, it's going to lead to long-term success, and it's going to lead to, as Nando says here, opening up new markets within boxing. That's how you get more people like us. It's how you get more casual fans become hardcore fans. They learn the fighters. This is another beautiful thing about fights like this. The reason it's selling is it's priced correctly. I see the second level being priced at 50, 60 bucks. That's good. It's positive. It's why another reason I value Canelo is he's done fights like this. He's like, yeah, no, I could do 20, 25 million live gate in Vegas, but guess what? Let's fight in front of 80,000 people in Dallas. It'll do half the live gate. That fight with Billy Joe Saunders, I think it did $9 million live gate, but he's going to sacrifice that. Why? Because he's bringing in a new generation of an audience. You're not going to have kids go to Vegas to be able to watch fights. It's going to be the fights in Dallas. It's going to be the fights in San Francisco. It's going to be the fights in Newark. It's going to be the fights in Toledo, Ohio, where you have 7, 8, 9-year-olds there with their dads, with their grandpas. You're going to see 3 generations of boxing fans there. And you're going to be producing new generations of boxing fans. And this is what we say about the power brokers and how they're short-sighted is they're not looking at that. They're lazy. They're just looking for quick bucks. They're not producing new generations of boxing fans. They're not willing to take little hits on the short term in order to long term grow the sport by building new generations of boxing fans. It's good to see price points at $50, $60 to get in the gate as opposed to 500, 600 that you're going to see in Vegas. It's good. It's a positive thing. You're going to see real boxing fans be able to go there. They're not priced out. This isn't a country club sport when you have stuff like that. And I applaud them for that. I'm blown away. The last top-ranked card in Oakland a few years ago, it was 1/3 full at Oracle. And this is what I'm saying, man. Like, there's something there if the dude's doing 15, 19,000. Is Ellie Seckback covering the Haney bout? I have no idea. If it goes to decision, Regis is getting screwed. Possibly. And we'll call it out if that happens. But you could be right. But I'm just saying this. There's value in those plays still. I'm pricing all that in. And Vegas is pricing that in. But I still think that Regis is undervalued, pricing all that stuff in. Regis at plus 700 decision. I understand your sentiment, and I understand why that's there at plus 700. But I'm just saying, there's a likelihood, there's a scenario in which Regis could win 8 rounds in this fight. And that this decision is possible for him. And when I'm looking at plus 700, when I'm looking at Devin Haney 4.5 to 1 underdog favorite, 4.5 to 1 favorite, I'm like, good Lord. That has to be an overreaction. That has to be an overreaction to Regis Prograis against Zorilla. Just not looking good. And it could end up playing Haney winning an easy decision. But just sitting here right now, I think that's an overreaction. How do we actually know the arena has been sold out? I heard Haney said in an interview he was giving tickets away. They announced that they originally scaled it for 15,000. Excuse me. And now they've scaled it to 19,000. They're trying to, they're opening up. So they scale arenas depending on how many tickets they're going to sell. They think they're going to sell. When I went to the Prograis fight in New Orleans, it was scaled for whatever it was scaled for. Ended up doing about 5,000. And New Orleans Arena can fit 18, 19,000. So they scale it for a certain amount. Like David Benavidez versus Bubu Andre was scaled for a certain amount. It was not open. The whole arena was not open. It was curtained off in sections. They don't have any curtains for this fight anymore. The arena capacity is 19,000 for a boxing match, and that's what they're scaling it for. So they're going for all of it. They're looking to fill every seat in this fight, and we'll see if they do it. Either way, if it's 15,000, that's strong. That's strong. And at that point, you say you got to get that guy back there after this fight. You got to get him back there. And another thing I don't want to hear either is I see Prograis and his team, and I know why they're doing it. They're trying to get under his skin. But as far as anybody else, this Devin Haney's not from Oakland or San Francisco or wherever. Who cares? He only lived there till he was 7, like this 8 Mile thing, right? Like you never seen 8 Mile. Like whatever. Who cares? You went to homeschool instead of public. Nobody cares about any of that. I understand why they're doing it, but these other people buying into this stuff, who cares? I don't care if he's private schooled, homeschooled, didn't go to public school, went to public school. Who's going to win the fight? Who's going to win the fight? Is he from Oakland or San Francisco, or is he from New Mexico or wherever? Who cares? I don't care. Who cares? I understand why Prograis is trying to get under his skin. They're trying to get him to fight a certain way that is out of his character. I understand why they're doing it. I'm just saying these other people running with these narratives, who cares? And I understand another reason they're doing it, right, is because you have, look, Bill Haney was at dinner yesterday with all of his channels. And he showed a video and he said, these are my channels. And he's openly showing his state-run media. It's all his YouTube channels that he goes to. He'll only go there. He'll go to those guys. And these guys are like proudly smiling, right? It's like smiling about state-run media. But I know from what I've heard that Regis Prograis, it kind of bothers them that people see Bill and Devin and his team as like street dudes, and they don't think they're street dudes. I get it. All I'm saying is I'm not buying into any of that. I want to see who the better fighter is. I don't care where they're from. Don't care about any of that. Where did you go to school? Why would I care about where you went to elementary school? Who cares? You're going to win the fight or not? You're going to win it or not? And here's another thing I'll say is this is a very high stakes fight for Regis Prograis. Devin Haney has time to figure it out if he loses this fight. He's got time. And there are people out there, another wild card, saying that since he's out there talking bad about Shakur being boring, he doesn't want to be boring in this fight fresh off of that. Fair enough. Maybe he fights a high-paced fight. Who knows? But this is a high-stakes fight for Regis Prograis. Why? Because if he loses this fight, some people might say since he looks vulnerable, he'll be more likely to get another fight like this. I don't think that's the case. I think this is his shot. This is his shot to win a fight that he feels has been escaping him throughout his whole career. And we could blame him for that. We can blame the market. We can blame whoever, but it is what it is, and we're here now. We could say he won the Josh Taylor fight and Josh Taylor got a gift. Look, Josh Taylor won the fight. Official record books. And look, results matter, and that proves it, right? Is if Regis Prograis does get that decision, he likely goes on to become undisputed, then enters the pound-for-pound list, and it's a whole different ballgame, right? Perception is everything. He's viewed differently by the boxing world. Same thing with Devin Haney. If Lomachenko gets the decision earlier in the year, then Devin Haney is viewed differently. Lomachenko is viewed differently. A decision, an official decision, people can say what they want about people's champ, and the decision doesn't matter, and the belts don't matter, and it goes by what the people think. They can say all they want, but perception here is everything. And the perception is Devin Haney is undisputed at 135, moving up to 140 to face a champion. And he's one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and he's a generational talent. That's the perception. And the perception is Regis Prograis still hasn't gotten that big victory. He's got a good resume, but he hasn't been active as he should have been. And that big win has been escaping him, due to his fault or not. And now he's got that shot. I understand the chip on his shoulder that I'm the champion and he's the challenger, and they're treating me like the challenger. And I think it's disrespectful. But guess what? The public perception is Devin Haney's the guy and Regis Prograis is not. Devin Haney's fighting at home. Regis Prograis is not. If Regis Prograis wants to change that, he can change it on Saturday. Regis Prograis has to go in there with the mind frame that I got to win at least 8-9 rounds to get a decision, or I got to knock this guy out. I got to go into the belly of the beast, and I got to do this, and no excuses. One of the fair criticisms of Vasily Lomachenko is despite what people like myself say about how special and talented he is and how great of a resume he has, and I believe all of that, but at the same time, the big victory, especially at 135, escaped him up to this point. And his arrogance is both good and bad. His arrogance allows him to be the Matrix, right? This special type of fighter, but it also has been his downfall in that he feels like he can give up some rounds. He feels like he doesn't have to go for knockouts because everybody is going to see what he's doing, right? Everybody's going to see that I took his jab away and that I'm conceding the body punch so I can continue to land my queen piece, which is a straight left. Everybody's going to see that, right? No, everybody doesn't. His arrogance allowed him to believe that everybody's going to see it. Regis Prograis has an arrogance about him, but he can't go in there too arrogant. He has to go in there like the challenger. He can't go in there as I'm the champion and he's got to take the fight from me. You hear this nonsense in boxing all the time, right? The challenger has to take it from the champion. If it's a close round, you got to give it to the champion. You hear it all the time. It's nonsense. Regis Prograis cannot be treating this like he's the champion. It's a good thing to treat that as a chip on your shoulder, right? Like I'm the champion and they're disrespecting me, so I got to go out there and take it from them. If that's how you want to do it. That's the angle to play. But if he believes that and he fights that way, if he fights like I'm the champion and he's got to take it from me, he's got a rude awakening coming. He has to be treating this like this is my shot. This has been the victory that's been escaping me. This is the victory that can completely change the course of my career. If I lose this fight, my deal with Matchroom is up in July. Third fight. And realistically, what suitors do I have at that point? But if I win this fight, there's a rematch in play. I got my belt still. I'm possibly on pound for pound list now. And now I can structure a new deal. And now I'm older, so guys might want to take a shot at me. And I can get some big fights. I can get some big money fights. That's how he's got to be treating this. Like this is do or die. This is high stakes for Regis Prograis. And these are the type of fights that I love because of that. It's sink or swim time. And I don't want to hear it. He comes up short. It is what it is. I'm a Regis Prograis fan, but it is what it is at this point. This is your shot. This is the one you've been wanting. You've been talking a big game. I understand you've been top 2 in this tough division for 5-6 years. I value that. I value all that. But perception is a lot of this. And the perception is you're not that dude. You're not a top 10 pound for pound dude. To a lot of people, you're not even a top 20 pound for pound dude because of that big victory that's been escaping you. And it's here now. You got to go get it. So for me, the official prediction is this. I think Regis Prograis has been undervalued here. I think if we were to look at this fight in April 2023, earlier this year, before the Zorilla fight, we would be looking at this fight completely different. And I think this is an over-exaggeration of that Zorilla fight. I think 140-pound punchers are a different beast. I understand the wild cards on the other end of that. There's a notion, a theory out there that these top fighters, the Josh Taylors of the world, the Regis Prograis of the world, have not been fighting fighters who they have to go out and find. They've been facing competition that sort of stands in front of them and you can bang, right? And it's a tough division, but it's not a division full of nuanced young fighters. And now that you have nuanced young fighters moving into the division, Teofimo, Devin, Haney, the theory is that Teofimo is going to beat Josh Taylor out of the division, which he did. Josh Taylor's moving up to 147. And now Devin Haney is going to move up to 140 and beat Regis Prograis out of the division and move him to 147. And I'm saying that's the most likely scenario as far as the betting odds. That's what people seem to think. Devin Haney by decision. But something tells me in this fight that it's going to be a close decision fight. And on my scorecard anyway, Regis Prograis will do enough to win 7 rounds in this fight and win a decision. Whether he gets that official decision or not, we will see. But I think Regis Prograis will slightly be the better fighter, according to me anyway. And I guarantee you that I will be unbiased in my analysis during the fight and after the fight, as I always am. I think people trust me to do that. So if I'm wrong, and if it goes Haney decision, and it's a close fight on my scorecard, I will not be screaming robbery. If on my scorecard it's 6-6 or Devin Haney 7-5, I will not be screaming robbery. I'll say, I'll take the L. I'll lose my money. But I think Regis Prograis will be the slightly better fighter on Saturday night. It's a decision type fight. I think it goes decision. I think Haney will feel Prograis' power. I think Prograis will be able to set up those shots. And we're going to have ourselves a good fight. A good decision fight. And I like Prograis by decision. Y'all be good. I'll be back Saturday night or Sunday to break down this fight. God bless. Peace.